Brand new It's in the Game podcast here on the Ball Is Life Podcast Network, which you can find on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the Cruise Control Podcast Network now on YouTube. Download, rate, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Show some love and support to the program. As always, I'm joined by my man. I am Denny Blanco on both Twitter and Instagram. Denny Blanco, my man, how you doing?
We live. It's a brand new day in Brooklyn.
Yo, man, you're a Brooklyn Net fan, so turn that hat around. I know you got it on. I know
All right. All right. Sorry, Ray. Sorry, Robin. Yeah, surprise.
You don't gotta apologize to me. I should have put the gear on too. I think I'm wearing an X-Men shirt, but that'll work.
That'll work.
And of course, we are joined by Robin Lundberg from Sports Illustrated, CBS Sports, all that good stuff. At Robin Lundberg on Twitter. Robin, my man, how you doing?
I'm doing good. SI, you can catch me there Monday through Friday, do videos for Sports Illustrated. Robin Lundberg show Saturday morning, CBS Sports Radio. And there's now a new podcast, Full Court on Flatbush, I do with Kerry Kittles for the New York Post, since we're talking Brooklyn Nets.
Yes,
That's
sir.
right. So real quick, so before we get into the trade, how did that show come about to talk about the Brooklyn Nets on the New York Post? Well, with Kerry Kittles of all people.
Yeah, I mean, they reached out to me. Really, I think, obviously because I'm such a prominent public figure, and to be honest, I think it's because there aren't that many Nets fans or Nets people pushing content, or there haven't been historically. And for people who don't know, I mean, Randy, I know you know, but basically, I came to New York. I lived outside of Philly till I was 12. And then I lived in Southern Maryland in the sticks, 15 minutes from nowhere. But I always grew up an NBA head, a basketball fan. That was always my number one thing. I came to New York straight out of school, 2004, straight out of University of Maryland. And obviously breaking into the industry and then doing New York sports talk radio, which I did for nearly 10 years at ESPN Radio in New York. I just wanted to talk basketball, right? And I've always said that in its heart of hearts, New York wanted to be a basketball town. So because of that, I, was trying to push the Knicks. I was rationalizing, like Isaiah Thomas, Eddie Curry went for 20 points and so many games in a row, right? And I wanted that to happen so bad. And I thought about being a Knicks fan during that time, but then I was around the Knicks enough, and move after move after move. It's just like, I can't take this anymore. And I was never, I would never say I was a fan, but I was pushing, trying to make the Knicks relevant and talk about it. And a couple years back, this was before KD and Kyrie, I just really liked the direction that the Nets were heading in. And I didn't grow up with diehard allegiances. People would know, I like LeBron and all that, but like team allegiances. And I have 2 young kids. And I thought to myself, what would be cool? We all root for a team. I'm going to make a proclamation. I'm becoming, a Brooklyn Nets fan. And I became a Nets fan on that day. And then obviously the KD and Kyrie thing happened after that. And I've publicly been, a fan. So I think, because, the Nets are a new thing that's growing, I was, I struck while the iron was hot, I guess, if you will.
Mm-hmm. So to be clear, Denny Blanco, born and raised New York from the Bronx. Not a big fan of Kimba, don't know why. But he's a Brooklyn Net fan since the day Kyrie and KD signed. So he's a bandwagon Net fan. I will say that every single time we do a show. So he's not diehard. He's not diehard. I bleed black and white. For me, I've been a Knicks fan 22 years now.
Long time of pain.
Long time. Probably 5 playoff appearances. I became a fan at the very wrong time. I missed out on the 90s Knicks. I was a Bulls fan during that time, obviously with Jordan and Pippen. And Rodman, I know we joke around with the Knicks in Brooklyn, but it's just like eventually one day they will become what they were almost 30 years ago, the prominent playoff team, maybe a finals. Hopefully we all get to see a Knicks championship in our lifetime, but it seems like we might get a Net championship before that.
Oh, well, I mean, if you were betting on it, what would you be? I mean, like, come on. And even, the Knicks, even when they get something to go their way, they seem to give it away. Like, I realize his career didn't take off afterwards, but Jeremy Lin, for instance, like, I just don't. To me, it doesn't make sense when that happens to you. Then you move on, and then even bigger later after that was Kristaps Porzingis. When it comes to the Nets and the championship, you look. I don't know where the Knicks are going to wind up in their rebuild, but they're not far along. And I don't want to knock the current regime or the current coach or the current players. That's not fair to associate them with everything that's happened in the past. But they are a ways away if they ever get there, right? And you have to doubt that they do with the ownership. But when it comes to the Nets themselves, people always say championship or bust and stuff like that. I don't like working from result backwards. It just doesn't make sense to me logically. I like to, because we don't know what's going to happen between now and then. You're going to tell me I have a thought about what a hypothetical that's going to happen before it actually happens. I'll give you my thought when it happens. But what you want from any organization is to put themselves in a chance to contend for the championship on an annual basis. And the Brooklyn Nets now have an extended championship window where if I were to tell you they'd win it this year, possible. If I were going to tell you they win it next year, maybe even more possible. If I were to tell you they win it the year after that, certainly possible. The year after that, possible. The year after that, possible. I think we're now looking at about a 5-year window where the Brooklyn Nets are a possible NBA championship team.
Danny Blanco, set it off.
Well, listen, we mentioned the Knicks before, and obviously we're talking about the Nets, but the Knicks are the Dallas Cowboys of the NBA, okay? What will go wrong will go wrong.
That's not even really fair to the Cowboys, to be honest.
It's just something always happens. Someone gets traded, someone gets hurt, someone comes when it's past their prime. So I'm gonna move the Knicks aside. We're talking about the Nets, and I'm fearful that, and you can obviously agree with me with this, I'm fearful that the Nets gave up too much offense for defense. What say you?
The defense was an issue for the Nets already, right? And that's something they're going to have to address. I don't think they gave up that much when you're talking about just what went out. I mean, they gave up 2 players and 2 good players. I think Karis LeVert will do well in Indiana, and Jared Allen was sort of coming into his own. But is Jared Allen an irreplaceable thing, an irreplaceable player? I don't know about that. And when you add James Harden, here's the thing about adding Harden. To me, this is all about Kevin Durant, because Kevin Durant is a special player. I mean, all 3 of those guys are special, but there's levels to this as a great philosopher. and Kevin Durant is way up there at the top, and you have to ensure you don't waste his window and your window with him. So not only do you put yourself in a better position to have a higher ceiling, not only do you put yourself in a better position to sign Kevin Durant to another contract, but you also have insurance against Kyrie Irving. I would assume Kyrie's coming back, obviously, and Kyrie's a brilliant player, but I don't know if we can call him reliable, both from an injury and a behavioral standpoint. So you bring James Harden in, he is reliable, and therefore you have a big 3 that gives you the most shot creation I think any team's ever had on the same team, or you have a foundation of Harden and Durant in a worst case scenario. Do they have to get better defensively? Obviously, right? They have to address, Bruce Brown's going to have to play more. TLC guys like that are going to have to contribute, but they may also have to find somebody on the market, another trade, another move. But that's where Sean Marks comes in. That's where these guys got to do their jobs, right? And he was able to build the foundation that we saw that they turned into these 3 guys without really draft picks or any of those assets. So those minor things I'd worry a lot less about than the major thing, which is much harder to do.
How worried are you about Kyrie? Because I'm not worried at all about it. Obviously, we've had some things going on in the media and people talking about, him taking a week off and it being disrespectful. You got people saying he needs to retire. I think it's a blip, to be honest with you. What do you say about that?
I don't know. I don't know. Kyrie is, holy crap, is he fun?
Enigma.
He's so good. He's so good, but I mean, I can't tell you anymore because one time you're getting a great quote from him, and he's in the classic jersey saying how much he grew up a Nets fan. Then he's calling the media pawns. Then he's disappearing. He'll probably be back and drive. I think right before he disappeared, he had like a huge game, right? So,
Robin, is he worth it? Is he? You're a Nets diehard fan, Nets fan, Robin. You have the trigger right now. You have the finger on the button right now to decide this. Is he worth it?
Well, I mean, I know I'm weaseling my way out of that question, but that's why the Harden trade goes down. It doesn't matter now.
There you go.
It doesn't matter what happens with Kyrie now, because if Kyrie, requests a trade, okay, you trade him for something. If Kyrie up and leaves, you void his contract and you use that cap space to fill in the roster. If Kyrie's there, great, you've got this all-time big three, right? Like, so that's where the Harden thing, I think, no matter what, if you have a chance to get James Harden, I think you do it. But that's where I think, especially in this situation, it doesn't matter what happens with Kyrie anymore.
Facts.
So, Robin, in your honest opinion, do you think it's going to work? It sounds great on paper. It sounds good to us on fans. A new big three here in New York. But do you think it's going to work?
I mean, it depends on what work means. Can you guarantee? I think they're going to give other people work. I think the idea that they're going to have a problem sharing the ball, I think, is garbage. I think the floor is so spread now in the NBA. There's so many possessions. These guys are all going to have their opportunity. Real recognized game, and they're gonna figure that part out. I think the other things are concerns. The depth at the big spots is Claxton and Perry. Are they going to develop? Or are you going to be able to get enough defense, enough rebounding, the type of things that you're going to need to win the championship? But when it just comes to, are they going to be an elite team? Absolutely.
So, to play advocate here.
Well, which advocate? The advocate.
Devil's advocate. Is it fair to say this? Kyrie could be like, listen, KD got a ring, but I know he's better than me. Got 2 rings. I got a ring. I played in Game 7 of the finals. I made the big shot that nobody talks about. James Harden, prolific scorer, MVP, All-Star, all that good stuff. Why do I have to be the third option? I got a ring. I did this. I've been to a finals. James hasn't. Can Kyrie start thinking, listen, well, KD's the one spot. But for a second option, it could be me more than James Harden. Can he think like that?
I don't think KD cares, to be honest. I don't think KD gives a damn about that. I think he's proven that now. Going to Golden State, having this go down, Kyrie taking shots at the end of the games. I think it's in Kyrie's blood, if you will, to be the guy to put up those shots. That's just how he's naturally wired. So, and to be honest, if you're telling me I could pick one of those 3, it might actually be Kyrie to have the ball down the street. Harden, I think, has to show that the way he was playing in Houston isn't necessarily the only way he can play or how he wants to play all the time. But let's just go through history. Like, how often have these things not worked? They've taken an adjustment period, but have we ever seen a wild collection of talent in their prime? Like you saw what happened with the Lakers when they had Dwight and Nash and all that.
Clippers? LA Clippers?
The what?
LA Clippers?
Well, the LA Clippers don't have they don't have a third guy. And 2, I would argue the LA Clippers haven't been a disaster. They had an embarrassing exit in the playoffs last year, but you can't throw away what they're doing overall. And go back to Boston, the Celtics, Garnett and Pierce and Allen, the Heat and LeBron, Wade and Bosh, the Cavs, even LeBron. I mean, if you have LeBron, it's going to work. But I that's where I think the nuance comes into play. But I don't foresee it. I could foresee something going awry with Kyrie, as I said before, because you can't really predict that. But from an on-court, just ego clash aspect, I don't think that's going to be the issue.
What is a successful season for you? Now, I was speaking to Randy about this, and I said, hey, in 3 years, we should expect minimum 1 championship. If we do not receive one in Brooklyn, if we're not going down the Brooklyn Bridge singing a Biggie song, it just doesn't work. What say you?
Well, for this year or for
let's take a 3-year to 4-year window. Let's give it a 3-year to 4-year window. How many championships can this three healthy things happen? How many championships do you expect? Do you expect them to win in 3 to 4 years?
I'll take one, man. I think not winning a championship is a disappointment.
There you go. There you go. That's what I want to hear. That's
and
what
I'm not saying this again because I want to be like, I don't think it has to be this year, but in that window, I think, look, if you get more than one, great. But I think if you get one and you're competing for others, that's success, right? I mean, that's the goal. You've never had it. The city hasn't seen it in whatever decades.
Right.
So I think a championship. I don't want to keep moving the goalposts. I think a championship would be a success.
Yeah, that's just one.
Yeah.
So let's say Durant gets one in Brooklyn. Do you feel that one title, no pun intended, trumps over the two he has with Golden State?
I mean, this is interesting about KD because I don't think, he obviously doesn't care about being the guy because it would be better for him, I suppose, if he did it without three. This is not quite Golden State because Golden State was a 73-win team before he went there. So this would be like, all right, he did it. Yes, he's done it with other star players, but he did it in 2 spots. And I think KD is at the point where his game is so undeniable. Where I think there are 3 guys probably currently playing who are top 15 players of all time. One is LeBron, obviously. I don't want to do the whole argument with where he is 1 or 2, but I got him up at 1. You got KD and Curry, I think, are top 15 all-time guys. So where Durant winds up on that list, maybe we'll nitpick and we'll decide on. Will it help him? Sure, it will help him. But you'll always have the detractors who are then going to say, "Oh, you can only do it on a super team." But I would say this situation is more akin to Miami and the Heatles than it is to him and the Warriors. Where the Warriors, because whenever I used to criticize the Warriors team, people go, well, what about what LeBron did with the Heat? To me, that wasn't the same thing. I didn't love what LeBron did with the Heat in the moment. Actually, I was rooting for LeBron to go to the Knicks back then. But in 2010, when that happened, the Heat were okay, but they built that. They built it quickly because they put the 3 superstars together, but they put that together. The Warriors were a finished product that souped up to a crazy level with Kevin Durant. This is similar to the Miami situation where they're putting it together.
So I asked Denny last night before he goes for the following question. I asked him last night. So Miami went to 4 straight finals with LeBron, D. Wade, and Bosh. They won 2 out of 4. If Brooklyn, their big 3, in order to be above LeBron, Bosh, and Wade, they would have to equal the amount of championships or get a third one.
As just a big 3?
Yeah.
It's tough because, LeBron's a beast. LeBron is a one-man dynasty, right? I mean, no matter what team he's gone on, they're going to the finals. I mean, every team he's gone to, literally every team he's ever played on has gone to the finals.
Robin, I call him Thanos. Robin, I call him. I call him.
No, Eddie, don't get him started, man. He's a big comic book fan. Don't get him started. Don't get him started.
Duh. Come on, Randy. Robin, I've called this guy. I said, look, if you watch the Avengers, listen, it takes the Avengers to kill Thanos, right? Yeah. So it makes sense that people are coming together to take on LeBron, who's actually Thanos. So that's the reference I usually mention when I hear LeBron and him being a winner everywhere he goes.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as like big 3 versus big 3, that always changes the equation and the dynamics a little bit. I think, again, for this team, I think it's 1. It's 1 because for Kyrie, it would be winning a championship away from LeBron. And what are you going to say? He's a 2-time NBA champ with the Game 7 shot, and whatever happens. For Harden, it would be that title that has eluded him. He proved in Houston he could elevate a team, and they were probably the closest to beating the KD Warriors. And for KD, it would be doing it, yes, with another super team, but in another location. And 3 rings is 3 rings. So anything you add on to that is gravy. I think getting that 1 is the most important thing.
So in your mind, as a fan, outside looking in, why didn't it work with Houston for Harden? I know they had Chris Paul, they had Dwight Howard, they had Westbrook, they had Carmelo, they had all talent, all Hall of Famers. Why do you think it did not work in Houston?
That's a tough one because since Harden went to the Rockets, they're the only team to make the playoffs every single season in that span. No other team did that. So you got to give him credit. He was MVP candidate every year. At the same time, there was clearly some sort of rift between he and CP3. It didn't. The Dwight thing. Dwight wasn't the player that they thought they were getting at that point. Injuries and other things. So the CP3 one is the one that bothers me because of the respect I have for Chris Paul and how good that team was. Westbrook, whatever happened there too. Westbrook is no longer, I think, that caliber of player. But obviously, I hate the way Harden ran himself out of Houston, just like everybody else. No one really wants to see that rewarded. I think people will forget about it in a couple weeks. I don't have concerns about his performance in Brooklyn. I think he'll be in shape in 2 weeks. He'll be on his, he might do what he does at night and support the local economy, especially the local late night economy. But he will be, reliable coming to work and performing. But obviously, there was also something else going on behind the scenes in Houston because the GM left, the coach left, and the 2 star players wanted out. So I don't know if we can fully put that on any one individual. Where I think there might have been stuff that we're not seeing from not being there on a day-to-day basis that led to a level of dysfunction or frustration.
Denny?
It's going to be interesting. You mentioned a couple of things. I mean, you mentioned, even with KD, LeBron. Correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen. LeBron going to Miami, free agent, correct?
Yeah.
Was he still in a contract? No, right? So,
no.
So when you pull a thing like you pull a move like Anthony Davis, or you pull a move like James Harden, it starts, you start looking back and saying that they're trying to establish a blueprint that if you're either 2 years or maybe 3 years maximum away from your end of contract, you can force yourself into a trade. And I don't even know if that's going to be, I don't know if Adam Silver is going to be able to do anything about it going forward. This may be just a blueprint. And I didn't like KD leaving, to be honest with you, Golden State, because he was up 3-1. Same concept with Harden somehow blowing up and Chris Paul getting traded. They were right there, one injury away. They were, and the chemistry was not. You can't duplicate that type of chemistry that Houston team had against Golden State. So I was a little upset that allegedly, the Houston team was blown up by James. Allegedly, who knows? But now that he's with the Nets, I expect him to do well in D'Antoni's system. I expect him to get everybody in place. I expect him to lose 25 pounds. I expect him to get everybody on the Eastern Conference train to the finals. My only fear, again, is when they get to the finals and they meet Thanos and the other guy, Anthony Davis, I don't know what they're going to do about rebounding. They better make every shot they take because they're not getting second chance points.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's something they're going to have to address. And can you beat everybody by outscoring them? I don't know. That hasn't been a proven formula in the NBA. I mean, the other side of that is you can't double team those guys. I mean, you just can't. You're going to eat buckets. I mean, and then I'm not even talking about like Joe Harris over there. Right. Offensively, they should be absolutely explosive. Can somebody that's on the roster develop into, or can they acquire the kind of player who does the non-box score things? That's what they're going to need probably to put them over the top. The guys that do the non, because all those championship teams have a couple of those guys who are, whether it was Caruso for the Lakers last year, right? Or, you can go back even on that Rockets team that didn't win at all. PJ Tucker was doing that sort of stuff for him. Obviously, Draymond Green with the Warriors. So like that kind of guy, whoever that is, I think is going to have to emerge for them either via acquisition or from within.
Yeah. They're about one or two pieces away, I think, from me, feeling really confident that they can beat the LA Lakers in a 7-game series. Right now, I don't feel confident at all that they, even with the star power that they have, the simulation of my mind is saying they're losing in 5-6, easy.
But again, I don't think we're being too reactive if we're like saying they have to win the championship this year.
No. That's what I was telling. Yes, that's what I was telling Randy yesterday. I was saying no. This year I don't expect them to win it this year. Now I also amended that statement too last night. I stated that I expect them to be deep in the playoffs, maybe Eastern Conference Final, maybe.
I think it's reasonable to think they make the finals.
This year.
The only team that I see and go, oh, maybe they can't beat is the Lakers. I'm not saying they cannot be beaten by another team, but the only team I see and say, oh, maybe they can't beat that team is the Lakers.
Right. Lakers. Yep, absolutely.
Robert, real quick, going back to the Rockets. In my lifetime, there's been a few teams that were really good, but did not win a championship. I mean, they got to the conference finals, lost to a Game 7, should have won a championship. I felt if the Rockets won that Game 7, they would have beat Cleveland in the finals and they'll be world champions.
Facts. That's what I feel too.
You look at Sacramento from 2002, Portland from 2000, Seattle in 94. You look at Phoenix in 2005. Do you look at the 2018 Houston Rockets as a great team, or one of the great teams out there that never won a championship?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, and I think the way people view Harden has skewed them more negatively than they should be skewed. But yeah, I mean, is it a guarantee they beat LeBron and them in the finals? I don't know if you can say that, but that wasn't the peak version. With that 2018, right?
Yeah,
that was that team that LeBron had no business bringing to the finals. So which is why I always think LeBron's finals record against him is absolutely fucking
right.
Excuse me.
You're good.
Trash. It was trash.
Yeah, the Rockets. They have to be in that mix of the best teams. That I would go the Kings you mentioned, the Phoenix Suns. The 7 seconds or less Suns over an era. The Rockets. I think those are some of the ones that pop into my head immediately.
So, Robin, what does Steve Nash do? Is a rookie head coach. He has 3 of the top 10 players in the world on one roster. Kyrie's out, but Harden's coming in. Durant is running all well on all cylinders. As a rookie head coach, how does he manage all these egos now?
I trust Steve Nash. I don't know. I just feel like people get caught up in the in-game stuff. I think that'll come. I don't think that's as important as philosophically understanding the game, which I think he does, and then having the steady temperament to manage personalities. And Nash, what he has going for him, I think, is he has that temperament, and you should be respecting him as a former player, right? Like he went out there and he did that, and he got busy. And Kevin Durant clearly really likes him. So Kyrie could always be a problem, like I said before, just because, but that would be regardless. That doesn't matter what the other variables are. That's simply him being his variable. I think otherwise Nash is going to be fine.
Real quick, before Danny goes, how much influence did Mike D'Antoni have being in Brooklyn for James Harden to want to come to Brooklyn?
Here's what I'll say about Harden, right? Again, where I think his reputation may be out of line with his performance a little bit and what people actually view. If it was true that the Philadelphia 76ers were the other team competing for his services, Daryl Morey runs the Sixers, Daryl Morey ran the Rockets and wanted Harden. D'Antoni was the coach of the Rockets, and now D'Antoni is reportedly very happy that the Nets acquired Harden. So the last guy who was his general manager and the last guy who was his coach both wanted him. What does that tell you?
He made them a lot of money. Another house, another pool. So, Robin, I mean, comic book fan, huh?
Yeah.
Big time? Okay. Let me ask you a couple of questions. So I just want to see where we at here, okay? Batman beating Superman?
No. But I mean, look, I'm not a DC guy. Like, to me, their characters are a little bit.
Oh, you're Marvel?
Oh, yeah, Marvel hardcore.
Okay, let's go there. Thank you.
Batman prep time thing. Like Batman is like DC's coolest character, right? Like a lot. But I like to poke fun at him a little bit as like a rich guy with a CrossFit membership or something. and he's got, because it always mixes me up. Like, because at one end of the spectrum, you're always saying like, oh, Batman with prep time could beat anyone. And then at the other end of the spectrum, he's fighting a guy in a leotard with question marks and somebody who carries an umbrella. So which one is it? Is he street level guy, or is he super power? And like in that the third Batman movie, when he brain broke his back and he was over in the pit and whatnot. His big plan was fisticuffs again. So like, I don't buy that Batman can beat all these other people. Like, to me, Iron Man's a better version of Batman in that regard. The difference between Iron Man and Batman is that Batman is who Bruce Wayne really is, and Bruce Wayne is the alter ego. Tony Stark is Tony Stark all the time.
Right. So I'm gonna do a speed round. But definitely Batman. His brain is on 100,000 trillion, so he may figure out how to beat you. All right. So you're Marvel. So Spider-Man, Hulk. Interesting. Professor.
I mean, like who would I rather hang out with? Spider-Man, but who wins Hulk?
Rather hang out with Spider-Man.
Rather hang out with Spider-Man. A Wolverine or the Hulk?
Hulk. Wolverine never gets fully put down, but I've seen that. Like, basically how a Wolverine Hulk battle goes is Wolverine consistently keeps getting beaten and pummeled and keeps coming back, and then get beaten and pummeled. It keeps coming. What they did is they softened Hulk. Hulk, it's very pro wrestling with Thanos in Avengers Infinity War. How do they put Thanos over? They have him whoop the Hulk. And that's what he did at the top. And ever since he whooped the Hulk, then I think people have gotten it twisted about where the Hulk has been historically. Like, historically, it's like Hulk, Thor, and if you're whooping in DC and Superman. And those are like the heavies in the whole equation.
There you go. See, Randy, see what I did right there? That's the Jedi mind trick. See, I was testing him to see how much Marvel stuff he knew, and he passed the test with flying colors. You see that? Monster.
Okay, I got one.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, Robin, for yourself, for superhero movies, what is your Mount Rushmore for yourself?
Okay,
your top 4.
Blew his brain right there. Randy blew his brain. Now he got me. Now he's shuffling.
Not MCU movies, just superhero movies in general.
Yeah, Marvel, DC, it don't matter.
Top 4 Rushmore superhero movie.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
That's boom. Love it.
Okay.
Boom. Best Spider-Man movie ever. Boom.
Infinity War.
Okay.
Boom.
And
like
Thor Ragnarok.
Like that. Those are good 3.
And then my 4th pick. This is the tough one.
That's a good 3 though.
I think if I'm being objective, I have to go with the second Batman.
Dark Knight.
Dark Knight, yeah.
Dark Knight.
I'm about to say, come on, man, you got 3 Marvel already.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, DC, man, listen. DC obviously only has Dark Knight, but Marvel, yeah, clearly we're all a certain age range where we were begging for these types of movies. You remember the first Street Fighter movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme?
I don't know if I remember it existing. I don't know if I remember any of it.
Google it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's classic. It's beautiful. It's a comedy.
That and the Mortal Kombat movie, trash.
The first one,
trash.
Terrible.
Last one, Robin. How do I ask this? Many people say Dark Knight is the greatest superhero movie ever, but there is a convo for Avengers, Infinity War, Endgame. I understand that. In your estimation, what is in consideration for the greatest superhero movie of all time? Is it one clear winner?
No, I don't think you can say that. I don't think it's definitive. I think Dark Knight probably wins the consensus vote. I think if you're just tabulating it, I kind of like to think of Infinity War and Endgame as one movie. Like,
it is
epic.
It is.
A conclusion in that regard. But I think there are too many personal taste things and too many different tones. Like I said, like you told me Enter the Spider-Verse was your favorite or Thor Ragnarok was your favorite. Cool. I love those movies. Yeah. From an entertainment value thing, I love those movies. I think you could go to Winter Soldier. I think you could go back and even say, like one of the older X-Men movies or Spider-Man 2 from that realm, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's tough to say there's a definitive one. I think the Dark Knight probably is the Family Feud answer, but you know, I don't think it's you have to. It's not like saying Tom Brady's the GOAT.
And what's the worst one you saw?
Oh, the worst. Wolverine, the first X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Oh, yeah.
The one where the sticks were coming out of his hands.
That's because I love Wolverine, like
So do I.
you know, like all that, and it basically retroactively ruined my childhood. I don't know if there might be ones that are worse than that, but when you consider the level of character and the, you know, what always bugs me is when some of these people can make good movies and then make like how the, you know, I know Bryan Singer's caught up in other stuff, but that's, you know, gross stuff. But how can Bryan Singer make X-Men Days of Future Past and then make X-Men Apocalypse? How can freaking Steven Spielberg make Jaws and then also make whatever that last Indiana Jones movie was? It never makes sense to me. But like, you know, like in the X-Men movies have that going where there's some really good ones and then there's just like epic trash ones. Yeah. But and it's different. I don't remember who directed that Wolverine movie, but it's awful.
Well, you get that with Wolverines, you got the perfect casting with Hugh Jackman, and you poop the scripts and the movie. You know, like you had it. You had it right there, guys.
You know what was terrible? Real quick, that Fantastic Four movie.
The whole series.
Yeah.
The whole series.
The Silver Surfer was decent.
Silver Surfer.
You know what it was else? Batman versus Superman. That movie sucks. Like from the editing is all over the place from the very beginning. I hate that movie.
Martha.
Yeah, Martha. I hate that movie.
What'd you say? I said, and that was another thing too. I'm like, I wanted way more Batman fighting scenes. I was like salivating when they gave us like 15 seconds. I was like, and then it disappeared, and it was like, oh, like so we're not getting any more fighting scenes. It's crazy.
And anyway. I think Keaton's going back there, right, Robin? Michael Keaton.
He's doing Batman in something. I
voiced over something or other. Something
like that, right? Any more, Denny, before Robin goes?
Listen, Robin, thank you so much for coming on with me and Randy. We appreciate you so much. Obviously, it's going to be a great next season. I'm excited to hopefully in the near future, maybe please. The world opens and maybe we can get to some tickets and get to see actually these players live, because that's where we want to be down the line. So thank you so much again, Robin. We appreciate it. And hopefully you come back.
You got it, guys.
Robin Lundberg, CBS Sports, Sports Illustrated.
Check out SI.com. You can see my videos all over there. You follow me on Twitter. You'll see that. CBS Sports Radio on Saturday mornings, Robin Lundberg Show, and Full Court on Flatbush, Brooklyn Nets podcast.
Say no more.
Robin Lundberg on Twitter. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay.
All right. So thank you to Robin Lundberg for joining the show. That was good, man. Good stuff. You can find Denny Blanco at I am Denny Blanco on both Instagram and Twitter. You can find me at Randy J. Cruz, RENDY, the letter JCRUZ. Special thanks to the Ball is Life family. You can find the podcast on the Ball is Life Podcast Network on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And if you're a video podcast fan, you can find the shows on the Cruise Control Podcast Network now on YouTube. Go ahead, download, rate, comment, subscribe. We really appreciate the love and support. Also, shout out to our good people at Red Bull. See the back. Denny Blanco, another great show, and I know we'll catch up soon, man.
Like we always do at this time. Ball is life.
That's right. We out.